All right, Shalom. We're the Hebrew Israelites. Come out here week in and week out. Prophesy the downfall, the daughter of Babylon, the third Babylon, aka America. But first and foremost, I want to say, Kal Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harachachadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Had the Rock, the Way. They were referred to as the Way, or followers of the Way 2,000 years ago. The Way is Yahweh Shai. Salutations to the Backyard, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consisting of so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the 1/3. The rest of the 1/3 comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to you Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shai on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Harachachwadash for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Harachachwadash allowed us to be an edifying camp to at least one member of the elect. You know, and I forgot to say who rule well. You know, and where I learned this truth from, right? But the title of this camp is going to be basically just morality, man. Going into basics, because you know I saw this individual on YouTube. You know, he made a YouTube channel dedicated to just, you know, knowing how to do certain things. You know, he made it as a channel for those that grew up without a dad. You know, so he made a channel doing, you know, specific things that a father would teach his son. You know, so I wanted to go into morality and, you know, a few scriptures dealing with the 10 Commandments, which we know there's more than that. You know, there's way more than just the 10 Commandments. You know, I believe it's over 614. You know, so without further ado, I'm going to start with Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44. This is Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44. It says, "For I am Yahweh, your power." So the name of the Heavenly Father, his name is Yahweh, which means he is or he exists. Right? Real quick precept. This is Proverbs chapter 30, verse 4. It says, "Who have ascended up into heaven? And how did he ascend?" Or what the world errantly calls a UFO or UAP. UFO standing for unidentifiable flying object, and a UAP stands for unidentifiable aerial phenomenon, which we know as the chariots of Israel. And you know, a lot of these heathen nations, they have records of the ships, you know. So he uses a so-called interdimensional spaceship, you know, to travel in. And that's the same way he's going to return to Earth. You know, I believe there was some chatter about, you know, them saying that they found the body of Jesus, which that would be impossible, because it even tells you in the book of Acts. And, you know, they play on you people's stupidity, man, just as, you know, what happened in 2020. But it tells you in the book of Acts that the same way he left is the same way he's coming back, which is going to be in an interdimensional spaceship, right? It says, or descended, who have gathered the wind in his fist, who have bound the waters in a garment, who have established all the ends of the earth. What is his name, and what is his son's name? Right. So, Ottawa Nawa, Yahweh Shai, man. That's the name of the Heavenly Father's Son, who is the first and the last spirit that was created, man, by the Heavenly Father. And through Yahweh Shai, were all things created, man. You know? And then it poses a question. It says, if thou canst tell. Because this name is not given to everybody, man. And this name is not maintained by everybody, man. You know? Only the elect are going to be extracted out of America, man. And we're to praise his holy name. We're to put glory to his name, man. In all the things that we do, man. We have to give him the credit, man. We have to exalt his name. You know? And it's 10:44, so, you know, hey, Barak Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, the water Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, Salaki Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah. So going back to Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44, it says, for I am Yahweh your power. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy. To be holy means to be separate, man. We're supposed to be separate from the ways of these heathen nations, man. It tells us not to learn their ways. You know? So that contradicts them saying that God loves everybody, because really we don't got the same God, man. Their God is the spiritual demon Satan, man. Or Quas. You know? They don't believe in the God of the Bible, because what do they say? They say the Bible is just a fairy tale. Because really, it's the so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous history book, man. And really, it was only written for the elect, man. Those that feared Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, man. You know? So, even to be separate, even to be holy, there's further evidence that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah isn't dealing with everybody, man. He's not even dealing with the whole entire nation of Israel, man. Right? That motherfucker moving on 2 cylinders, man. Fucking half the engine. Or somebody might have got him for his catalytic converter. No. But continuing, it says, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Right. So you really ain't supposed to be having no pet snakes, no pet lizards, iguanas, frogs. Those things are designed for a purpose. You know, and the purpose that is designed for makes you defiled, man. That's why you're not supposed to touch it. Verse 45, it says, "For I am Yahweh that bringeth you up out of the land of Mountazarium to be your power. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy," man. Right? It says, "This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and of every living creature that moveth in the waters and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean." So he established a dietary law for you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous to follow, man. He has created animals, beasts, fowls that are clean and unclean, man. And we're not to deal with the unclean. You know? It says, "In between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten." Right? Which I'm not going to go into that right at this moment, but going back to co-pilot in the Lashawan Kodash, the word Kodash means set apart. Breakdown: morality begins with separation. So you got to separate yourself from wickedness, man. You know? It says hygiene laws, dietary laws, and sexual laws all follow from the command to be Kodash, to be set apart, right? So let's go up to Leviticus chapter 15, verse 1. Because this is dealing with the law of discharge, right? This is Leviticus chapter 15, verse 1. It says, "And Yahweh spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Yasha'Allah, and say unto them, When any man have a running issue out of his flesh," you know, a running issue. You know, it could be a what do you call it? Something that is oozing pus, right? Or it could be seminal discharge, you know, that will make you unclean, right? It says, "Because of his issue he is unclean. And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue, whether his flesh run with issue," whether his flesh run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is his uncleanness. Every bed whereupon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. So even when you are having intercourse, or, you know, some may, you know, rub one out, you know, that wherever you're laying on or sitting in is unclean, man. Your clothes are unclean if you're wearing clothes. And you are unclean, man. So you will have to bathe yourself, take a shower if you're a man, or a bath if you're a woman, to get in those cracks and crevices. And, you know, you'll be unclean until the sun goes down, man, until evening, you know. Verse 7, it says, "He that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes." So even if you touch someone, you know, that had the issue, shall wash their clothes, man. It says, "And bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And if he that have the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that have the issue shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And whosoever he toucheth that have the issue and have not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And the vessel of earth that he toucheth, which have the issue, shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when he that have the issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and shall be unclean, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before Yahweh until the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest. And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahweh for his issue. So really that issue could be, you might have a sword, that's running, pus and, white blood cells out, because now it's going to go into the seed of copulation, which is actually you ejaculating, right? Verse 16, it says, and if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the even. And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. The woman also with whom man shall lie with, seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even. So after you get done, doing what you do, doing that exercise, you got to go wash your ass, man. And she got to go wash her ass, right? It says, and if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, which goes into her menstrual cycle, right? She shall be put apart 7 days. So she's supposed to be put apart, man. Dealing with that by herself. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. But here it is in this society. You have women on their period at the gym, sitting on the bench, doing all that weird exercise shit that really don't benefit them, but they're doing it because they want, a bigger ass. That's the only reason why these women go to the gym, because they want to get attention, or they want to work on something about them so they can garner attention, man, from the opposite, or it even could be the same sex. It says, and everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And if it be on her bed or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean until the even. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, meaning her blood, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, so that's outside of that 7 days, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean. Every bed whereon she lieth, all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. But if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days. So after she's done bleeding, and after she's done bleeding and she passes, the first 7 days, then she'll be clean. But if she continues to bleed after that, then she's still unclean. And say if she stops bleeding on the 10th day, she still has to wait 4 more days, until she's allowed to be unseparated, right? It says, verse 28 again, but if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take unto her 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons, and bring them, and it's not talking about the reptile turtle, it's talking about the turtle dove, right? It says, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for her before Yahweh for the issue of her uncleanness. Thus shall you separate the children of Yashar'Allah from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. That's why you can't go into the tabernacle being unclean, man. That's why you can't have sex before camp. That's why you can't ejaculate before camp. Because this is the tabernacle of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, man. And if sometimes I won't even go to camp, man. I'll just have to miss a day. But you got to be also, cursing my own self out, you got to be proactive, on being moderate and controlling your spirit. It says, this is the law of him that have an issue, and of him whose seed goeth from him, and is defiled therewith, and of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that have the issue, of the man and of the woman, and of him that lieth with her that is unclean. So going back to co-pilot, which this was the laws of bodily discharge, and the Lashuan Kodash is Tama, unclean, impure. Breakdown, hygiene is moral, so you gotta have hygiene, man. And I was fortunate enough to live in a house that had a washer and dryer, and 2 bathrooms growing up, so I always took like 3 or 4 showers a day, man. And if I wore something, I always went back home or washed it the same day, man. It says Yashar'Allah was commanded to wash, isolate, and purify. Cleanliness equals obedience, right? That's why you gotta be it also says cleanliness is godliness, man. And I know I gotta do better on that, as far as like cleaning up the house, or cleaning up my apartment. You know, so there's a lot of things that I, got to work on, This is dealing with sanitation in the camp, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 12. It says, thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whether thou shalt go forth abroad. Right, and they do have those things where there's a designated area outside of where everyone else is at, where you can go relieve yourself. Go to the bathroom, right? It says, and thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon. And they even do this in the army, man. They'll bring a paddle so you could dig a hole and sit in that hole and let it rip. It says, and it shall be, when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. And even animals do that, man. They'll act like they're kicking dirt, on their droppings, man. Well, at least, mammals. Most mammals do it, like cats and dogs, It says, for Yahweh thy power walketh in the midst of thy camp, to deliver thee, and to give up thy enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee. Right. Because, and that cuts, these damn devils saying that we're living in shit huts, man. Those are the Hamites. There's a difference between the darker nations, man. Going back to Lashawan Kodash, Makana, encampment. Breakdown. The Most High required latrine distance and burying waste. Morality includes environmental discipline. And then that droppings returns into the soil and returns into the earth. And then it might cause, certain things to grow. So going to the book of Exodus, chapter 20. And then what does Esau does? He puts his sanitation facilities right in the middle of a neighborhood, man. I remember going to San Francisco and Hunters Point, and we always used to pass that sanitation facility, and it had the whole neighborhood smelling like shit. And then what does Esau do? He the same water you piss and shit in is the same water that you drink out of, man. Because really this water is nothing but poison, man. Because of this damn devil, man. Right? So going to Exodus chapter 20, and I'm going to start at verse 13. It says, thou shalt not kill, which really, it should be murder. It should be thou shalt not murder. And that's what 2/3 of our people do, man. They go around just murdering each other, man. And a lot of the times it's due to a woman or it's due to monetary gain. Just like that individual David, man. He murdered that young girl, man. Was really, according to the Bible, she was a woman. But, I think he got with her before she became a woman, man. Which typically you become a man or a woman when you go through puberty, man. But nonetheless, according to Esau's law, he murdered that little girl, man. She'll be classified as a little girl or or a young woman. Verse 14, it says, thou shalt not commit adultery. Right, adultery is sleeping with another man's wife. You know, or a woman having a husband and stepping out on him, man. That's adultery. And then you wonder why people get put to death, man. You might wonder why did that black guy, because they always say it's the black guy doing it, why did he kill that woman? Well, how do you know that woman didn't commit adultery? And the Heavenly Father sent that individual to put her to death. You know? Or even that one nigga that was the serial killer, man, that went around killing black women, man. He was like the nigger woman death angel, man. I think he was called the Grim Sleeper, maybe? I forget. You know, they always had his little documentary on, I think, Tubi. You know, but the Most High, he sent them. You know, and then also you have something called spiritual adultery, man, where you're basically committing adultery against Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Following after Jesus Christ, following after Buddha, following after Allah, all these different gods, man. You're committing adultery, spiritual adultery against Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. And then you wonder why the Most High sends a death angel or a demon that is possessing an individual to go into a church and shoot up everybody, man. You know? Verse 15, it says, thou shalt not steal. Right, so thou shalt not steal, man. You know, I was never in the spirit of taking something that wasn't mine, man. And then if I borrowed it, I'll give it back. You know, I'm not into having somebody else's shit. I'd rather get my own shit or just patiently wait for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua to bless me with my own things, man. It says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Right? All people have a knack for lying on someone, man, or bearing false witness on someone, man. And really it's because you fear. You're afraid of something, man. That's why people lie on people, man, or people lie to people because they fear them. But really you're supposed to fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, man. And that will compel you to tell the truth, man. And the truth hurts. And for me, I don't fear none of you niggas, man, not to tell the truth, man. You know, it's gonna hurt somebody's feelings. You know, just like Paul said, have I became your enemy because I told you the truth? You know, so the only people that I lie to is a fucking bitch, a woman. I don't tell women every single thing, man. Because it'll come back to haunt you, man. You know? How you doing, man? So you don't tell these women every single thing. It tells you in the scriptures, keep thy mouth from the one that lieth in thy bosom, man. So you ain't got to tell her everything, man. Or you can. I mean, if she asks you if you pop another woman, you could tell her the truth. Or you could just, you know, lie to the bitch, man. But among men, you're supposed to be truthful, man. And you're not supposed to bear false witness. Verse 17, it says, thou shalt not covet. To covet something means to want. Thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Yeah, man. That's why I don't like bringing my women around, and I don't want to be around your women, man. Till this day, There's brothers that brought their women around and I don't even know what the fuck they look like. Because I'm putting my head down, man. Out of respect for that man. And in return, out of respect for that woman, man. No, I'm not into that picnic Israelite shit, man, where you bringing your woman, everybody's bringing their wives around. The wives is best friends. I'm not into that type of shit, man. And that shit, causes issues. It sets the stage for someone committing adultery, man. It says, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor. So you're not supposed to covet anything, man. You're not supposed to want someone else's shit. Which goes back to bearing false witness. I remember when I was in San Diego doing the work with Gorilla Peg Brew and another individual who fell out the tree. They was telling everybody that I wanted a fucking Cadillac SUV, and I don't even drive SUVs like that. I don't like them. I like shit that's low to the earth. But then I was just bearing false witness. But little did they know, if I wanted one, I could have bought one. But me, I like being different. I already had a friend in the world that was a producer for Macy Gray. He was driving around in a Cadillac truck, man. So it wasn't no big deal to me. But sometimes you can't even be happy for a nigga, man. You can't even be happy for a nigga, man. Without him thinking that you want his shit. So going back to co-pilot, thou shalt not commit adultery. Lashwan Kodash, not up to break wedlock. Breakdown. Sexual morality is foundational. Adultery destroys households and covenant order. Why would you want your brother's household to be destroyed, man? You should want for your brother as you would want for yourself. Thou shalt not kill. Ra Tazak. Murder. Unjust killing. Breakdown. Morality includes restraint, justice, and valuing life within the covenant. Right. Thou shalt not steal. Ganab. To steal, deceive. And that's heavy because it said deceive. A lot of you that teach this word are deceiving your congregation, man. Why would you want to do that to somebody? And not that you're ignorant, but you willingly try to deceive them, man. Right? Breakdown. Theft violates trust and destroys community integrity. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Shakar. Lie. Falsehood. Breakdown. Morality requires truthful speech and righteous testimony. looking at the camera because last week it cut off. It was too hot. But this is forbidden sexual acts. Leviticus chapter 18 verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Yashar'Allah, and say unto them, I am Yahweh your power. After the doings of the land of Martezarium, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. So we're not supposed to be like these heathen nations, man. Right? You shall do my judgments and keep my ordinance to walk therein. I am Yahweh your power. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahweh. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him. So you ain't supposed to be messing with your sister. All that shit that these heathens do, man. To uncover their nakedness, I am Yahweh. Thy nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. So you're not supposed to see your parents naked, man. You know, that's the sad way that Ham went out. And then he mocked his father, man, which was Noah. You know? And then what did Shem and Japheth do? They walked backwards with a blanket to cover him, man. It says, she is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. A lot of you sleep with your mother, man. And that's what Esau had us doing during chattel slavery, man. That's where you get the term motherfucker. You know, this said that for educational purposes. You know? It says, the nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. Right? Because when man and woman are joined, they become one. You know? The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thy own nakedness. Right? The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's near kinswoman, which is it will be your aunt. Right? Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thy aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswoman. It is wickedness. And you know, a lot of these rappers, you know, they brag about doing shit like that, man. Like that one rapper named, which I met his dad out here. His dad was in Fresno. You know, that rapper Baby Bash. You know, he went into how he popped a mother and daughter at the same time. Verse 18, it says, neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, because the other in her lifetime. Slaki beside the other in her lifetime. Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is put apart for her uncleanness. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her, which is adultery, right? And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, right? Get an abortion, man. Neither shalt thou profane the name of Yahweh, the name of thy power, I am Yahweh. And profanation means outside the temple. You know? It says, thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind, it is an abomination. Which an abomination is a very wicked act. You know? And that's why you always have, certain of those clubs that they frequent getting burned down to the ground, and then you hear all the casualties in the aftermath, man. You know? That's the judgment of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Verse 23, it says, neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. You ain't supposed to be having sex with animals, man. And we already know who likes doing all that. You know? Fucking crazy. They got a term for it. It's called bestiality, man. And it's very, very big in the underground, man. And when I talk about the underground, I'm talking about the deep web, man. It's more prevalent than a lot of you think. And who's doing it? It's mainly Edomites, but then you have certain of these tribes that are doing the same thing, man. Especially these Latin tribes, man. You know, a lot of these Latin women like having sex with donkeys, man. You know? And horses. It says, neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. It is for sure confusion, man. And then you can kind of tell when you see these Instagram clips where you got these women and their animals all trying to hump on them or all in their crotch. You know, that I'm talking about aggressively in their crotch. Which suggests that they sleep with their animals, man. And a lot of these women that got these small dogs, man, they'll put peanut butter on themselves for that dog to lick it. You know? Which, I don't really want to go into graphic details, but you get the gist. Verse 24 says, defile not yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. So all these heathen nations were doing all these things that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is telling us not to, man. That's why when we do those things, it makes us a heathen. It says, and the land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomiteth out her inhabitants. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger, which is an Israelite foreigner, that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled. And even these heathens, these Hamites, they do these things till this day. You know? It says that the land spew not you out also when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall ye keep my ordinance, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am Yahweh your power, man. So going back to co-pilot, the word for I believe abomination is no, it's not. Zama, wicked sexual scheming. Breakdown. The chapter outlines boundaries: incest, bestiality, homosexuality, adultery. Morality equals respecting divine order. Right? And that's what separates us from these other nations, because we're made in the image of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, man. They're not. They're like beasts. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. It says, flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, the separated spirit, which is in you, which ye have of the Most High, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with the price. Therefore glorify the Most High in your body and in your spirit, which are the Most High's. Right? So going back to co-pilot, Zana, to commit whoredom. Breakdown. Sexual sin is unique because it defiles the body, which is a vessel of the Most High. Yeah, because you're taking on whatever that individual has, you know? You're exchanging basically DNA, man. I forget what they call it, nucleic acid. You know? This is Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16. It says, these 6 things doth Yahweh hate. Yeah. 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look. So it's not good to be proud. Right? A lying tongue. It's not good to lie. And hands that shed innocent blood. It's not good to be a murderer, man. You know? It says a heart, which your heart is your mind, that deviseth wicked imaginations. You're always scheming, man. It says, feet that be swift and run into mischief. You know, run into wickedness. Or to do wickedness. It says, a false witness that speaketh lies. There's a lot of people that are false witnesses that speak lies, man. No. And he that sowed discord among brethren. There's a lot of people that sow discord, man. You know? Going to Lashuan Kodash, Tha Abba, abomination, proud eyes, lying tongue, shedding innocent blood, wicked imaginations, mischief, false witness, sowing discord. You know, those are all things that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua hates, man. And a lot of you have done those things. This is Ecclesiasticus to the book of Sirach, chapter 19, verse 19. It says, the knowledge of the commandments of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is the doctrine of life, And they that do things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality. The fear of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law and the knowledge of his omnipotency. If a servant say to his master, I will not do as it pleaseth thee, though afterward he do it, he angereth him that nourisheth him. It says the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. There is a wickedness in the same an abomination, and there is a fool wanting in wisdom. He that hath small understanding and feareth the Most High is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. Man. And that's all self-explanatory. Going back to co-pilot, morality equals knowing and doing the commandments. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 10, verse 12. It says, the beginning of pride is when one departed from the Most High, and his mind is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that have it shall pour out abomination. And therefore Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. Man. Yeah, he'll bring upon you strange calamities and overthrow you utterly, man. Going back to Lashwan Kodash, Ga'ah, to rise up, be lifted. Breakdown, pride is the root of immoral behavior. You know, you're lifting your own self up. This is the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High. Right. And, you know, for the truth's sake, there's certain of those things that I need to work on, man. You know, because I don't put myself above correction. Right? Breakdown, fornication, uncleanliness, idolatry, hatred, wrath, strife. Morality requires spiritual discipline. You know? Say Matthew chapter 5, verse 8, it says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see the Most High. Tahar, clean, pure. Breakdown, morality is internal first, purity of intention. This is Psalms chapter 24, verse 3. Who shall ascend into the hill of Yahweh? Or who shall stand in his holy place? He that have clean hands and a pure mind, who have not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. Going back to co-pilot, morality equals righteous actions plus righteous motives. Summary, morality equals kodash, separation from filth, disorder, and wickedness. Hygiene laws show discipline and respect for the body. Sexual laws protect lineage, covenant, and purity. Commandments from the backbone of righteous character. character laws, truth, humility, justice shape the Israelite identity. You know, so with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom.